Okay, so first I'm going to tell y'all my story getting here has been like a little journey for the past couple months. When Pastor Kim asked me to do this, like I do not, I'm so like right now I'm shaking y'all. But when she asked me, I was like, okay, I just have to do it. At some point I have to do this. And so I said yes. And then it got delayed, and I was like, yes, she's going to forget about me. I don't have to do this. And so the next month come around, and she was like, you're still going to do it, right? And I was like, oh, okay, yes, I'm going to do it. And then something happened, and I think it got delayed again, right? And I was like, yes, I'm not going to do this. It's not my time. So, yeah. And then she called me, and she said, okay, so we're going to do this in May. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Well, I have been fighting, like, I don't even know what I have written in this paper, y'all, but I just put something together. But I want to tell y'all, before I came, so I went to camp a couple weeks ago, and my camp, I feel like, was part of something. So it was called To Surrender. And look, they gave me, I didn't even do a talk or anything, but somebody gave me this binder with my name on it. Oh. So I'm something like you're supposed to move. Well, then I got to do this little, so I have this book that a good friend gave me. And I went in it the other day, like looking ahead to see what today's, what are these called? Devotionals was going to say. So I want to share that with y'all. So let me get to my day. And I saved the scripture because it's in King James Version, and you know I don't understand that stuff. So I pulled up the New Living Testament. So I have this thing on my phone that's popping up right now. So my mom passed tomorrow, 6 years ago. And it pops up on my phone every year, and I don't know why. But I'm trying to get to my scripture, y'all, and I don't know how. My phone's not letting me do it. Okay, here it goes. So the scripture is Isaiah 52:7. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of messengers who bring good news, the good news of peace and salvation, the news that the God of Israel reigns. And so the devotional says, so when you read these, you read them like it's God talking to you. And he says, your calling is to be an encourager, to lift people out of dungeons of despair, to pull them out of their self-made pits. I empower you to drag them out of the quicksand of temptation, to rescue them from worldly distractions. Grab their hearts in your hands and point them toward Calvary. At the feet of Calvary, their sagging heads and limping hands will be lifted up. They will run into my waiting arms because you pursue those who have no helper. Your feet will be famous in heaven. Now get busy, liberating, emancipating, and delivering the world around you. Declare hope to the dying generations around you. Call them back home. Many are ready to listen. Many are tired of their lonely pits and empty pursuits. You are what you do when no one is watching. I reward you in public for what you do in secret. Your job is to publish my word in any way you can. Put the word in people's hands. It will lead them to me. Save them. It will be a light for their life's path and a fire to warm them in their journey. I reign forever. No one can challenge me. Proclaim this to the world and live safely in my arms. So I feel like all this running I'm doing, he's just giving me all of this, like telling me, just relax. Just do what I'm asking you to do anyway. Yeah. And so, okay, here we go. Kleenex. Oh, thank you. So, okay. So when I was little, growing up, my household was, I thought at the time, normal. I mean, it was for the most part. My mom and dad didn't drink. I mean, they drink like on New Year's or something like that, but they didn't do any of the weird stuff. They both were in the military. They both worked for TDC, but they fought a lot. And I think seeing that between them led me in certain paths down my life, thinking maybe it was okay, or I don't know. But my childhood growing up, we didn't go to church all the time, but we did go to church. We bounced around for a little while until I was probably 9 or 10, and then we found a non-denominational church, just like what we're in today. And that stuck. My mom got saved, and yeah, from there she never let go of me. Wow. But as a child too, I do want to bring this up. So my dad that I grew up with is not my blood dad. To me, he's my dad. I look more like him than my sisters do. But I never met my real father. So I just want to bring that up because I think that part of that has some of the things like abandonment, or, you know, in my story. I wasn't real rebellious growing up, but I was a follower. I hung around a lot of older people, and so I just kind of followed other people doing what they were doing. They're older, I'm thinking, okay, it's okay. And I got pregnant real young. I was 15, and I was scared to smithereens, but my mom, the love that she just had for me. When I was back there in the doctor's office, he said, "You're pregnant." I'm like, and she's out in the waiting room. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna die. And when I walked out, I'm crying, and my mom's like, "Yay, I'm gonna be a grandma." And I'm like, what? No. But that's the way she was. Like, she didn't hammer down on me. Like, she just loved me and tried to love me more and tried to love the things away that I was doing bad. But I ended up leaving home. I followed a man, and he wasn't like a bad man, but he wasn't anybody I should have been with. I mean, I was 16, I should have been at home.
Right.
And, but I ended up going back home, and Madisonville was never a place for me because just the people there, you know, that when they say if you're trying to, you don't go back to your old crowd. You know, if you're doing wrong with people, don't go back there. And that's what I did. I started hanging around bad people. I started drinking a lot. I was smoking pot. That was about it. But, you know, I was doing those things. And I met my son's dad. I'm 17. He's 36. And that was not a good relationship.
Wow.
I ended up moving away with him. We moved to Dallas, and he was more verbally, like he tried to control me, then I didn't see what it was, but now that I'm older, I do. And he just tried to, I think that he thought that I was gonna be like his little maid or something. He was gonna make me what he needed. And we ended up, one day he did something to my son, and I jumped up and I was like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. And he beat me up.
Wow.
Whenever I got up off the floor, I couldn't really see or anything, but he was saying you need to get out of here. And I was like, okay, you know, and I can't see, but I'm trying to get my kids. And he was like, you're not taking these kids with you.
Oh.
Yeah, I sure am. No, these kids are coming with me, they're mine. And he was like, well, I'll call the police. And I was like, okay, call the police. And they took him to jail.
Good.
Still, at this time I'm 19 and I have 2 kids. And I had a lot of pride. And I'm thinking you know, I have to stay with this person. That's what I've always known. You're supposed to stay with the person that you have kids with, and you're, you know, supposed to make it work. And so I stayed there. Nothing else happened, but one day I came home and he was just gone. And I mean, I did what I was scared, but I didn't run back home this time. I told myself, I can't just keep going back to Madisonville. And so I stayed there in Dallas. I struggled. I didn't even try to take him to court or anything like this for I mean, months down the road, he's had me served with papers trying to take my son, but he left a little note in my house the day that he left and emptied my house out. He left a little note in there saying that he didn't want my son, but he didn't want to be put on child support.
Right.
So I didn't, in court, I just showed that, and you know, it was what it was. I got my son. Let me see. So I stayed there in Dallas, taking care of my kids. I pushed. I was young, but I became a manager at a Whataburger, and I took care of my kids for probably, I think maybe a year and a half. I was there by myself with the boys, and it was great. Sometimes I just wish I would have stayed that way. But I met my ex-husband, and he was very mean. Like, I think that, because in the beginning when he kept trying to talk to me, like, I don't know, I wasn't interested. And I was thinking like, oh, it's because of what I just went through, and you know, I'm just happy with my kids right now. But he kept pushing and he wanted to talk to me, and he wanted to go out. And I was like, eventually I gave in. Right from the beginning after we moved in, it was a horrible thing. I have had guns to my head. He's kicked me with steel-toe boots in my face. Wow. I've had broken ribs. And that was for 10 and a half years. It was almost 11 years we were married. He did this. Wow. In the end, when I finally, so let me back up a little bit, because this is part 2. So when we first moved in together, I got pregnant, and I never told him. I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want this baby. I didn't want to be connected to him like that, because I mean, he was so mean. I just knew eventually I was going to make myself leave him, and I never did. But I aborted this baby. And I never told my mom, I never told my dad. It was like a secret thing. And I thought that everybody was going to find out at one point. Because the day that I did it, I had a friend that was able to keep my kids. And so I went and did it. And I'm by myself, of course, so I'm pushing myself and driving everywhere and going to get my kids. And you know, you start having your monthly as soon as they do that. And so I went to Kmart. They had a Kmart back then. And I went to Kmart, and while I was at the checkout counter, I'm telling my kids, they're little, I'm telling my kids, they gotta hurry, guys. And I'm holding onto their hands because the room's like going purple, and I pass out in Kmart. And all I remember hearing was like my kids crying like, Mom. And I remember waking up and somebody's touching me with like a wet towel, and I'm like looking around, and I just grab my kids and I take off running because I don't want anybody to know what I did. And so I go home because we didn't live that far, but I go home, and you know, I don't know what happened. I think I just maybe overexerted myself or something, but I kept that a secret for I think it was like almost 10 years. It was after me and my husband separated that I told my mom about that. And then, so when me and my husband separate, it gets down to, I'm gonna tell you about this God moment. God has been with me so much in my life, you guys. I think that was one, you know, when I passed out in Kmart. And then when me and my husband separated, the final time, you know, I told you he was really abusive. Yeah. So one time I went to work on a Saturday. He started getting real controlling. Like I got this really good job, and I started working in downtown Dallas in an office building. And I mean, it was an awesome job. And I think that he started getting paranoid, like, you know, he's a mean person, and I think he just thought that I was gonna leave him or whatever, and that wasn't anywhere in my mind, but I don't know, he was just mean. But I went to work on a Saturday morning one time, and he had done something to my car that morning, and he left his phone in, I don't know if you know what that thing is on the back of your car. It's a spoiler, that little fan thing back there. And he left his phone back there. And I used to go, because I worked downtown, I used to go like to the parking rides. There was a little parking ride down the road from my house. And so I would park my car there and get on the train and ride it into downtown. Well, being on the train, I didn't like people to bother me. And so I would put on like my little headphones and I would keep my head down like this and turn off my phone. I couldn't hear nothing or whatever. And he was blowing my phone up. And because I didn't answer, it set him off. Like, he was mad. And when I got to work, I'd seen that he'd called my phone all this time. So I told my boss, because I knew what was coming. I'd been with him already for 10 years.
Wow.
And I knew it was coming. So I told my boss, I said, I need to go home. And I went home, and he was on the phone. I don't know, like he was talking to his mom or something. But I went home, and because he was on the phone, I just went in the bedroom and I laid down. I laid on the bed and I dozed off. And when I woke up, it was a kick. He kicked me, like, I don't know, like he climbed up on the bed and kicked me straight in my head. And from then on, from that morning, Saturday morning, probably till it was Monday morning, he had me trapped in this room, beating me, biting me in my face, my body. Towards the end, it got to a point to where I was just kind of lifeless, and he ended up wrapping me in a blanket and setting it on fire. And this time, I'm crying because I know that my kids are still on the other side of this house. And I'm crying, God, please. I don't care what he does to me. It's my fault for my children. And I'm crying. And I don't even know, like, because I was like in and out. But at some point, I got up out of that bed, and the bed is still on fire. And he has me pinned against the wall, and I'm crying like, God, please. And God was there. He heard me. So my ex-husband, he's a black man, but he turned white this day. He was looking at me, and I don't know how to explain it, but I'm against the wall, and he's got me pinned saying, like, we're all gonna die in here. And I'm like, no, please just let the boys out, I'll stay right here. He's like, no, we're all gonna die in here together. And I'm crying, God, please. And Mike looks at me, and he looks at the wall behind me, and he looks back at me. And I don't know, like God was there. God just put something in him, and he turned around and walked out of the apartment. After 3 days of all of this, he just turned around and walked away. Like, I know that was God. He saw God right here. Like, I'm hers, she's mine. And so I just ran. I ran as fast as I could. I went and got my boys. I was like, come on, you guys. And they hadn't seen me. And at this time, my boys are teenagers. My oldest one is like 13. And when I flip on the light, and the way that I looked, I saw it on his face. Like I hadn't seen myself. But Ethan's face said it all. And I knew at that point, if I did not leave, I was probably going to lose my children, because they're going to kill this man. And so I left. My mom came. I ended up having to go to the hospital. They did all kind of stuff to me because, it was really bad. And he ended up going to prison. So at this point, it's just me and the boys again. Whew. I'm so happy. I'm actually, I got a different kind of job, but it was still an awesome one. I worked for the light company doing something for them. And but when it was time for him to get out of prison, I let fear creep in, Even while he was at prison, I had PTSD or some stuff like that. I would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, and I started drinking really bad, trying to make myself go to sleep. I started drinking really bad, and just drinking led to one thing to another. Somebody was like, hey, you want to try this? And they handed me a pipe, and it had like crystal meth in it. And I tried it. Within 2 weeks, I was shooting drugs. I never in my life, like, I don't know, I think maybe I was gone on some kind of, like a journey to kill myself. I don't know, and the drugs just led to more terrible relationships, people that, you know, they didn't care about anything. And my son, you know, he already was getting married. You know, they were older. I was 36 before I ever used drugs like that. And my son was fixing to have my first grandson. And I was still using, but when Monkey got born, I think my son knew that if the baby was around, I wasn't going to use, because I wouldn't. I think he caught on to that. And so he just kind of left Monkey with me all the time. And so I got clean. I ended up being clean for like a year and a half. And it was time for Monkey to be with his family. You know, that's his mom and dad. And so, you know, they started keeping him a little longer away from me, and then eventually I was there by myself again. And I don't know, I just drifted back off into the wrong places. I didn't have direction. I wasn't going to church. You know, I was clean and I was doing everything I thought right, but I didn't have support. You know, my mama was there, but she was far away. She moved to, you know, miles away. And so I just no direction. I drifted back off and I started using again. And in totality, I was using for like 7.5 years. And the second time that I started using, it was really bad. I was like sleeping in streets, bouncing around from Cleveland to here in Waco, back to Madisonville. I've stayed a couple of nights up in Dallas on the streets. You know, and I was selling drugs. I put myself in situations where, so when you, or this is the way we did it, but when I would go to pick up, they would rent a motel room, and I would go sit in the room and wait for the people to come, and it would be like a group of like just dudes, like 8 or 9 guys, and I'm in there all by myself with like $10,000 cash, you know, and they could have done anything to me. They could have taken the drugs, they could have taken the money, left, beat me up, raped me, whatever, but God. And, but all of this stuff's going on. I did not want to be like this. I didn't, but I was stuck. I was stuck in a world that I knew nothing about. I didn't want to be there. And I got with one person who, he had a piece of property, so I was stabilized in this little place. I was still using, but my mom started coming around more. Like she was always, even when I was like sleeping in the streets and stuff, she would come and hunt me out, and she would give me plates of food and stuff, and I'd be like, how did you find me, Mom? And she's like, you're my daughter, you know, but she was always there. And then after I got like stabilized in this one place, she would come and she would play like, Shonna, you want to go and do this with me, or you want to go to church, and I never told my mom no. I loved her with everything. I never told her no. And so I'd be like, okay, Mom, hold on. And I'd run in the house and I'd put on like a decent little sundress and I'd get high. I'd do a shot and I'd go jump in her truck and go to church, you know. And my sisters and everybody used to always complain, like, why do you do that with her? You know what she's doing, blah, 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 blah. And Mama would just tell them, you know, your guys' lives aren't perfect, and at least she's still coming. You know, if she stops, then that's when we want to worry. And but eventually it got to where I couldn't put my shots anywhere. I was shriveled up, like my whole body was the size of this knee, you know, not even my thigh, just my knee. And I couldn't do it anymore. I was just tired, and I was like, I just stopped doing it. And I followed, well, first I ended up going home to take care of my mama. I came here to Waco for a little bit, and then I found out my mama was sick. So I went back home and I took care of her until she passed. And so I was staying there at her house, you know, and I planned on, I wasn't for sure if I was going to do it or not, but during the time that I had come here before I went to take care of Mama, I had a job planned out, so, because I thought I was going to be here. And then when I ended up going and taking care of Mama, you know, I was like, well, I was iffy. I didn't know if I was going to come back to the job or not. And my son was living with my mother. That was their residence. And so I was staying there, and my sisters, the day that my mom died, I had been clean, but I hadn't got all my stuff cleaned up. You know, I still had warrants for my arrest over here and tickets to pay over there. And my sisters knew this, and they threatened me, and they called the cops. And you know, I'm sleeping in the living room at my mom's house, and the cops are knocking on the door. They make us leave. All the kids, my nieces and nephews start fighting in the front yard. Like, it was a horrible day, the day that my mother died. And, you know, my sisters we have all the same mama, but different daddies. And, but to me, that was never, we're sisters. You know, I never saw anything split between us, but my sisters did. And they told me that my mom was the only thing holding us together. And, I mean, what can you say?
Yeah.
You have to go, you know, go with it. And so I followed my son back to his place, and I ended up coming back here to Waco, because, you know, my son would have helped me to get back on my feet or whatever, but pride. I had pride there, and I could not depend on my child to bring me back up. And so I ended up coming back here to Waco, to the crazy person that I followed here. And so I'm still clean. I haven't used, I didn't want to be like that. And, but he wasn't getting clean. And so Ethan's about to have my darling, my second grandkid. And he wouldn't let me see her. And I was really sad. I didn't get to see her till she was almost a year old, like 6 or 7 months or 8 months or so. And but I'm back here, and this person that I'm with, you know, he's not trying to be clean. He's not trying to be faithful. There's nothing there. And I'm like, okay, but I don't really have anywhere to go. So he started working for the oil field, and he had everything set up where I could access all the money. And so I just took some of his money. I hate to say it like that, but I just took some of his money, and I went and got myself an apartment. And so that I could be away from like him and his family, and just, you know, and I live like right here on Craven, which is like around the corner from his family, but it's weird, but it worked. I mean, whenever I first moved out, they all used to harass me. They would knock on my door. I was working in McGregor, and they would come to my job in McGregor and leave notes on my truck. They would do things at my job trying to get me fired. But I just kept going with it. I was okay. Time went by, and in this apartment, so when I first moved into this apartment, I had just started this job. I didn't have any money. And so I was sleeping on the floor in this apartment on a sleeping bag. I was eating tortillas and hot dogs every day for like 3 months. That's how I lived. And I'm texting my son one morning, and I'm telling him, like, Ethan, like, it's just amazing. I'm here. It's so peaceful. Nobody's hitting on me. I mean, it's just, and he was like, Mom, he texted me back. He said, Mom, the devil's a liar. He said, you need to get up and go to church. It was a Sunday morning. It was a Sunday morning. He said, you need to get up and go to church. And I started crying, and he sent me a scripture. I don't even remember. It was from Thessalonians. I don't remember what the scripture was, but I just remember Thessalonians. He said, you need to go to church. I was like, okay. So I was like, I'm by myself. People are gonna look at me. They're gonna judge me. Everybody's gonna know everything that I've ever done, what I've been through. Like, you know, I don't want to go, but I knew that I needed to go, and I didn't have my mom. And so I'm getting up out of the bed. I'm still texting Ethan. Ethan's so mean. I don't know where he got that. I'm still texting him, and he's trying to get his family ready for church over there in Madisonville. They're doing their thing, and so I'm like pacing around the house, and I'm still crying like a baby. And I get up and I come here because I'm right down the road, so I saw this big church, and I sit in the parking lot. It's like 9:30 when I get here. I sit in the parking lot for a whole hour, and I'm crying, and I'm watching people go in and out, and I look, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this person is not gonna like me. Like, I struggled. Well, I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to my son the whole time, and I guess they only go to like big church. They don't go to Sunday school. And so Ethan texts me. He's like, Mom, I'm going to church. He said, quit being a baby and just go in. And I was like, okay. So I stick my phone in my purse, and I come inside, and I like make it quick to the sanctuary. I'm like, yes, yes. Like nobody sees me, and I get like, I'm in the middle section, in like the second row in, like right in the middle. Like nobody can get me right there, okay? And but I'm crying. I know that I must have looked a hot mess that morning. And Beth, yes. Beth's coming from the front, and she's like, makes her way up there real slow to me, and she just leans over the seat and she starts talking to me, and like she's from Normandy, I'm from Madisonville, we're like close right there, and she just captures me, and she was like, she said, well, I gotta go do this or something, and she said, but if you plan on staying, she said, you might want to move up to the front because you get distracted from back here. And then she walks away. Okay, well, that wasn't bad, but I do plan on staying. So I got up and I moved to the second row, right in between Linda and Tanya.
Yeah.
And I stayed planted there for, I think 2 or 3 years. And I knew that when I came here, me being alone, because so after my little drug experience, you know, I started going to the doctor in between to try to see like if I was mental or something. Why am I doing this? And they came up with a story like empty nesters, and I've never heard anything like that. I was like, you're nuts. What? Did you just make that up? But I guess it's a real thing. And so I knew that when I came here, I just had to be full, like 100% with it. And I started doing Overcomers. I was doing the women's Bible study. I did all the single stuff. I came to all the women's breakfasts. I mean, I went full force. God was going to keep me this time. I wanted it. And so I'm like I think maybe 1.5 years or 2 years in, and I go through deliverance. You know, all this time, it's just me at this apartment. I'm like coming to church, everything's going to work, everything's fine. The day that I went through the deliverance, I go back home and I haven't seen this person in 2 years. Yeah, so it must have been like 2 years or so. I couldn't have been home more than 45 minutes, and boop, 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 on the door. And so I go look through the people, because you know I don't like people, so I just looked at the people. And I don't open the doors. I just stare at everybody through my people. And so I'm looking, and it's my ex. Not my ex-husband, but it's the person that I followed here to Waco. Like, I haven't heard from you in 2 years. And the day that I go through deliverance, the devil shows up at my door. You know? And I just stayed there staring at him. And finally, he just looked so sad, but he walked away. I was like, yeah, go, buddy. And so I didn't hear from him again after that. I eventually did. It had been months down the road, but I was stronger then. You know, I could open up the door and be like, hey, what? And so I started facilitating Overcomers. I started going to the prison. I did some of the prison stuff. I went to McLennan County Jail and did some stuff with ladies there. I do this camp thing with the girls. That's a funny story too, because so this camp thing, my mom, she tried to get me to go a lot of times. Like she learned about it, I think, whenever I was on drugs. And so she kept going, Shonna, you want to come and do this Trace Diaz thing with me? And I'm like, nah. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, she's trying to put me in rehab. That's a trick. I ain't going nowhere with her. And so I kept telling her no, Well, you know, I had got clean. Mama got sick. I got clean. I was taking care of her. She passed. And then Ethan came to me, my oldest son. He was like, hey, Mom, because, you know, they've been doing this camp stuff. And he's like, hey, Mom, you want to go do this camp? And I was like, what? It's for real? That's some real stuff? It's not rehab or anything? Are you tripping me? And he was like, no. He was like, I'll sponsor you. You can go to this camp. And I was like, okay. So, but I found out my mom, she never went. She just wanted me to go because she wanted me to go with her. Sure. So that's kind of, you know, it saddens me that I never, but I thought she was tricking me. And so I do that kind of stuff. But here I am. I just, life. And you just have to, you know, do it 100%. You know, there is no fence, you know, like all my life. I was, even when my boys were little, you know, I wasn't like devoted to church like I am now, but I would go here and there. I was going, you know, if I didn't go, my kids still went, you know, that kind of thing. But you have to be in 100%. You know, like I tell people all the time, like somebody asked me just about a month ago or so if I wanted to change churches. I was like, no, this is my village right here.
Yes, amen.
I have a little bit of each one of these ladies in me that have helped me stay strong these past years. And no, I ain't going nowhere. This is mine. And yeah, I don't,
You're married.
yeah, so after I started coming to church here and I was, you know, doing all my stuff, rebuilding my life and all that, you know, I'm done with guys.
She was the man hater.
Yes, I was a man hater. I was the queen of the man hater club. Like, I just did not want to be, I didn't want to do that again. And God said, I got better things for you.
Yes,
and
he
reunited me with an old friend from school. He's the greatest guy.
Yes.
And we were married like in a month. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why I said yes, because I was a man hater. But Jason is amazing.
Yes, he is.
Yes. So I've just lots of blessings.
Amen.
Yes, you can walk.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you, Shonna. That's amazing. It's also when you look at